sharing some of the same stuff with those docs that you've been sharing this year, but also I know that everyone is a little bit different, right?
Oddly enough, they're uniquely different. Each city I go to, so we've been Orlando, Jacksonville, Tampa, Atlanta, New York, whatever.
New Jersey, yes.
New Jersey, yes. And oddly enough, it's the same topic. So we're bringing, I would say, the cutting edge approach to helping heal the gut, especially things like leaky gut and dysbiosis, and name them all of them, Crohn's, diverticulitis, all of it. Very strategic, very well thought out, good plan that we have to bring to each one of these cities. The interesting thing is that as it unfolds, there's different doctors, there's different people there. So the questions are different, the dialogue is different. To some degree, you think you're in a different seminar. So it's that part of it is good for me because I don't like repetition. So it's been a lot of fun to meet all the different doctors, all the different questions, all the different wants and needs. Nashville is no different. We went up there to talk about gut health and how to heal up leaky gut. And like I said, diverticulitis, Crohn's, dysbiosis, imbalances, all of that stuff, IBS, all of that stuff falls in that category. And at this point, we've got a very strategic, very thoughtful, very planned out approach towards very, very effective. And docs are super excited. Yet the conversation is never the same. Never.
It must be so cool to keep it super dynamic, Bart, right on your toes, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's I'll just give you an example. This time around, the docs were as say interested in like this one was very heavy into what kind of approach do we take to make sure we get the mindset of the patient to get them ready for this journey. And this is why it's so unique in different places. And say when I was in New York, it was very strategic about what exact products are we using? What is the strategy when it comes to supplementation and herbs? This time it was literally about the mindset. And I shouldn't say just this time, but we have a lot of discussion. And I think they're all phenomenal, quite frankly, because in today's world, with so many things of the lure of, oh, just do this one thing and you'll have ripped abs or the 6-minute abs or fix your health overnight or go, get out of pain overnight. The patients in general in our country, all of us, we are often looking for quick fixes. And when it comes to human health, it's not how it works. There's no magic wand. Well, the magic wand is the fact that our bodies were designed to be healthy. And that is a big part of the premise of the mindset. And the beauty is that there's so many people right now that understand that concept. They get there all different waves, different levels of education, different, experiences. But so many people now have started to recognize that, what? The human body, my body, is absolutely amazing, that there's this innate, inborn wisdom within the body. And if we let it do its job the best that it can, we got the potential of being superhuman. People might use different words to say that, yet nonetheless, I think that truth is becoming more and more prevalent. And when I was up in Nashville, it's wonderful. These doctors don't have to be there. So I have a room full of doctors, and some of them, I think one had been practicing for 43 years, and then sitting across from them, I have practitioners that have been in practice for 2 or 3 years. So just wonderful people up there. I had a great time. We kind of in and out. So people say, well, did you go here? Did you go there? I didn't really go anywhere. Saw the inside of my hotel room. Across the way, I did get to kind of watch a car show. That's about it.
That's kind of up your alley. I do wonder, did you get to have any liverwurst?
Yeah. So of course I brought with me my frozen liverwurst and my block of cheese, which is wonderful. I ordered it happened again.
I feel like I know what you might say. What happened, Bart?
So I ordered my meal, which was a filet mignon and a hamburger, and said no sides. And damn if it didn't show up with French fries.
I wonder if the result was the same this round.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were about the same. I didn't finish all the French fries.
Worth celebrating.
Yeah, worth celebrating. So it's when I got there, I just kind of chuckled to myself. I go, oh, here we are.
Here we are again.
Sitting in my hotel room again with some French fries. Now what?
Well, it's good to have you home, Bart, and I'm excited to be back on the show. We got a couple questions for tonight.
Yeah, before we even get to the questions, I got a couple clinical insights that I want to share with people. So first, let me of course just welcome everyone. If you're new to the Health Made Simple show, love having you here. Thanks for being here. The goal always is to do our very best to help make health simple. It really is simple. Bodies are made to, we are designed to be healthy, and sometimes we're in the way. So the goal here in the show is just to help navigate those and make it as simple as possible so we can get on with our lives, just take massive action and explore, incredible opportunities about being superhuman. The clinical insights, which I'll share a couple right now, are things that I come up with when I'm practicing. I go, oh, that would probably be a good thing to share because this comes up all the time. And most likely everyone has been down this path, so I'll just share it. So I got two, and they're very, 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 very similar, but a little bit different. One, a young girl, and she's a young athlete, just out of college, and tennis and basketball and maybe even volleyball, having a shoulder issue. And when she first came to me, says, I've tried everything. I don't know what else I can do. And with that being said, I said, well, have you had your shoulder adjusted before? And she said, no. All right. So there's more you can do. Have you ever had sound wave therapy before? And she said, I don't even know what that is. I said, okay. So we got her adjusted. We got her full spine adjusted. I tested her shoulder very specifically. Could recognize that there was a muscle weakness in something called the supraspinatus. It's a very easy muscle test when you're actually evaluating the shoulder. After that, I was able to adjust the shoulder. And what's fascinating is you get the range of motion back and the strength. And that happened literally within seconds. And I'm sharing this because it is actually very cool to recognize that there's so many things out there, folks, that you can do to help your body. And literally it was probably within a 3.5 minute window here, her range of motion went from I can't play tennis anymore because I couldn't serve to, oh my goodness, how did that just happen? And which is really, really nice. And again, that's the beauty of the human body. The bigger thing here is that sometimes we run into these mental blocks where within our own circle of doctors, our own circle of friends, personal trainers, athletes, or just, your coworkers, within that circle, you say, what else can I do? And everyone says, well, you've tried, and I've tried this. And in that circle, you've tried everything. So you need to bust out of that circle. And I can't emphasize that enough for people. So I do have the luxury of traveling around and meeting doctors from all over this country. And there's a lot of good stuff out there. Yes, a lot of
so exciting, Bart.
It really is, and I'm super proud of what we have to offer and the knowledge base and experience that we bring to the table. And there's more. So don't give up, especially if your body's talking to you. There's so many opportunities for our bodies to heal. So, and then I think, without naming names, you're working with that same young lady, and she's just jazzed. She's back to playing tennis. She's serving hard and everything. She's an athlete, so she understands that the athlete is always on the cusp of borderline injury, and they're sore. That's what an athlete does. That's they live right on that edge there. So, but she's super jazzed, and now she's like, yeah, my body's awesome, and I love hearing that.
It's contagious, right?
It is. I love when the human has the moment they go, my body's awesome. Yeah. And I pray that everyone actually has that moment, and you don't need to have your shoulder get fixed in 2 minutes to make that happen. Because if you get to wake up every day after you put toxins in it, and after you drink, a bottle of wine, and you've done all these things we've done to it, and you wake up and your body's still on your side, your body's awesome.
That's an awesome body right there. It's such a good reminder, Bart. Thank you for that share.
Yeah. All right. So the second one, similar, but a little different kind of outcome, similar words. So another gentleman that I saw today, his neck pain came back, and his words were, I don't understand why it's keep coming back. What else can I possibly do? And this one was a little bit different. And I list off the same things I list off every time. You can probably do a little bit more yoga in your life. You can, relax a little bit, get in a sauna session, do some stretching. And he just smoked right through them. Because and that literally, as I said, right, his question was, what else could I possibly do? And I gave him those answers. And then he said, but what else can I do? Oftentimes, we don't want to hear what we need to hear. And I think this happens a lot in life. Sometimes it's like smacking us upside the head, and we don't necessarily want to hear it. So, and I leave it at that. And I kind of chuckled. We chuckled together. I said, I guess I'll just keep saying the same thing. You keep saying the same thing. At some point, one of us is going to shut up, right? And we kind of chuckled. He goes, yeah, I'm not really listening. Or he's like, I hear you. I guess I don't like what I'm hearing. And that was just a funny, good moment for us to both have, because that's it. Sometimes you don't want to hear it, right? So this came up in Nashville. There was a gentleman there. I get an opportunity to go around and talk to the docs about their lifestyle and their habits, and it's fun. It's a funny moment. It's a funny moment, is what it is. And one particular gentleman I was talking to had all these issues with his gut and whatnot. And just prior to that, we were talking about his lifestyle. Like, what is his style when it comes to eating and drinking? And his style wasn't so hot. He drinks, glass of wine at night or whatever. Doesn't eat so good. But it is his style that he has. And he doesn't like the outcome that he's getting, but he doesn't want to change his style. So my question for those of you that love your style, but you don't love your outcomes, do you love your style more than your outcomes? And that's really all it is. That's the only question you got to ask yourself.
It's a stark one, Bart. That's a stark question, I have to say.
Well, have that same conversation with a room of 50 doctors, and yeah, that is a common thing that comes up as I'm out there teaching. When I talk to other docs, there has to be a level of congruency. I personally believe in the last 3 years that we've learned as a public, as we observe the healthcare system, that inherently now we're looking for congruency. And if there's not congruency, bye-bye. Like, we're out of here. That didn't make any sense what you're talking about. I'll just find someone else who's walking this path a little bit differently. And I think that all the healthcare providers, I'm not saying that you have to be in perfect health but congruency, I think, is important. And for these men and women that were attending my workshops, no better starting point than the individual. So good
No better starting point.
Yeah, a lot of fun, especially when we put it in that frame. Is your style more important than your outcome? And that's all it comes down to. What is your lifestyle?
Good stuff, Bart. Thank you for those clinical insights. Shall we slide into a couple questions tonight?
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right, beautiful. So first up is, this is a great question because where we live, we have a lot of people who are kind of journeying down to Florida. So I know that you get this a lot, but this one came through recently. I just moved, so I just relocated. Why can't I sleep?
So this is very common. So I'm gonna break it down in two different ways. One, I'll talk about it in a perspective of Chinese medicine. I think we've talked a little about this in the Health Made Simple show, and I'll say it in this way. So in Chinese medicine, there's 3 primary stressors that interfere with the human function of really what we call qi, the flow of life, and they can cause disease and disharmony within the body. So one would be the loss of love, and it could be a loved one. Someone could pass away. Your kids could move off to college. So your best friend can move, something like that. So it's a loss of love. And then the second one is the inability to exchange, and that could be that really what we interpret that as is finances, money stress. And then the third stressor is moving. And this is a real interesting one because I think it's the most overlooked. And because of where we are here in Florida, we have literally like countless amounts of people, what it seems to be every single day, moving here just to our community. And it's very, very common that I will end up seeing these people and they're in disarray to some degree, meaning that they're just out of sorts. They don't feel grounded. They thought moving to paradise, they're supposed to feel better, look better, move better, all of those things. And it's not necessarily the case. And it's because when we move, we become unrooted. And as human beings, we have a very, very strong premise of being rooted. Our homes need to be our sanctuary. They really do. And then the familiarity, and especially when you get to the bedroom, our cave, that very place that we lie down and we are the most vulnerable, the most humble. So we're in that space. That place needs to be magical for us. So over time, to some degree, it develops into it because that is a place that you go every single night. You lie your head. And when I say vulnerable, you're just lying there, you're sleeping, right? So a boogeyman could come up and grab you, right? And you'd have no defense. So that place needs to be our sanctuary. But when we move, we have now uprooted all of that. I guess I'll give my tomato plant story.
I love the tomato plant story. Yay.
Yeah. And this is the exact same one that I teach at the seminars, because understanding people's stressors give us a great tool to help people move in the right direction. So helping people understand how they got there often helps them also get out of it as well. So let's just talk about the tomato plant for a second. Let's imagine everyone listening here that you are this perfect, beautiful, ripe tomato plant sitting in your backyard. And you got nice red tomatoes coming out, and you got green leaves and good roots and all this stuff. And you decide that you're going to move. And we're going to take this beautiful, healthy tomato plant and we're going to pluck you out of the ground. And we're going to move you. I don't care if it's just across the street, literally 20 yards away. Or we might move a state away or a country away, and we put you into another beautiful yard and we plant you in the backyard. As you are planted now, you are not rooted. You're going to need time. So now what happens in real life, the simplest things make you very vulnerable. Now the simplest things can be very stressful to you. A little bit of wind can come by and blow you over. Where before, because you were so rooted, it wouldn't blow you over. Now, the weather changes and all of a sudden it's a big deal for you. But it takes time. So typically upon a move, it's very unsettling. And it may take as much as 6 months and for some up to a year to be fully rooted once again. And I think if we understand that, it helps. And that's why we can do a lot of incorporating. So the message I send to the practitioners is that anytime you move, it could be a subtle move. Me flying to Nashville for 2 nights and then coming back, that is a move. A lot of people don't sleep well when they go away. I've done a lot better on these last couple of trips than I've done in the last couple of years. And I literally bring everything with me. I bring my pillow. I bring my bathroom kit. I go to bed at the same time. I get up. I don't care what city I'm in or how little sleep I got. I get up every morning at 5 o'clock and I go exercise. I bring my body right into the rhythm. So the more we can bring ourselves back into that rhythm, circadian rhythm, and get ourselves rooted in our normal paradigms. The challenge is most people go on vacation and they throw them all away. They eat different, they think different, they drink different, they get up at different times of the day, they cut their exercise out, or they bring it in, whatever, but they make all this change and there's disruption. So it can happen on vacation, but it definitely happens when you move. So that was kind of a long answer to what could be just when you move, you become unrooted and it takes time. And the more you understand that that time is an element, the more opportunity you're going to have to kind of just sit in it. And also I would say this, don't make big decisions right after you move. You have to settle in. Even it could be something as wonderful as you just bought your first new home. Or you just yes, it just takes moments. And there's a lot of sometimes a remorse, or you're renting a new apartment. So no matter what it may be, we have to give it time.
Would you also say, Bart, in those moments of transition, you're like, it's kind of worth it to give yourself, I don't know, a little bit of grace when there's like maybe a challenge, feeling like the big feelings are coming through, even though it seems as though everything should be good. We can be a little nice to ourselves.
I think not just a little grace. I think we have to give ourselves a lot of grace. And that's what I mean. We have to be patient with that process because we're not going to be at the best version. So remember, when we are unstable, we're very vulnerable. So we're edgy. So we get defensive. So we're defensive and we might even beat ourselves up a little bit because now we have a lack of patience. We might have a lack of immunity. We might have a lack of communication skills and all of those things that go with it. And all of those just take a little time. It has become so crystal clear for me living down here because no doubt we live in paradise and everyone expects that they're about to move to paradise, and they do. But it is very interesting to watch how often it takes people a moment or two to settle in.
Also, just to say, once you do settle, it is pretty magical. Grateful for that.
It is. It really is. Yeah, we're blessed.
All right, should we step into the next question?
Let's do it.
All right, here is a great one. Are probiotics a good place to start if my stomach is upset?
Okay, this sounds like this came right out of the seminar. So interesting enough, I'm going to start off with the short answer and say, no, often we have to pump the brakes. But here's the fascinating thing. If you talk to pretty much anyone in healthcare or just that has Google, if you have a gut issue, usually we start with probiotics. And I'll say most of the time, that's the wrong thing to start with. I'm a huge fan of probiotics. I use them every day, every single day in clinic, but I'm going to give a quick analogy. So let's say you're building a house. You got to be very specific about what materials you use and when. So in the beginning, if you're going to build a house, you probably want some cement to build a foundation. Then you want some wood to build some walls. And then you want some roofing material to build a roof. Essentially, probiotics are the roof. They're the last thing we need for the most part when it comes to our gut health. Most people, when we have gut issues, it's because we have dysbiosis or irritable bowel syndrome, maybe Crohn's or diverticulitis or leaky gut. Oftentimes, we got to bare minimum clean it out first. So I like the analogy of thinking of you got a garden in your backyard, and in your garden's a mess. There's paint cans and bicycles and junk back there and all kinds of tall weeds and everything. And that's your gut. And if you just go take your amazing probiotics, your new tomato seeds, and you start dumping them on that garden, just going to make a mess. In fact, for some people, if you have something called SIBO, which is a small intestine bacterial overgrowth, you put the probiotic in them, you'll actually make them a little worse. They'll blow up more because you're adding a good bacteria to a situation that already has a bacterial overgrowth. And that literally is a big part of the strategy I'm teaching these docs. We have to get very strategic about it. And when you do, we can dial in this health thing. So love probiotics. Unfortunately, people go to it first and therefore often don't feel as good, sometimes feel worse. And then they just kind of lean away from them totally. So probiotics do not make us bad, but they need to be, let's say, used strategically at the right time.
So in these scenarios, Bart, is there a good place to start if probiotics would not be it, I wonder?
Yeah, the place to start when it comes to gut health is always stop putting bad stuff in. We have to start there. There is literally no getting around it. That's a big conversation with the docs when we say, when I'm telling them, hey, listen, there's no way around this. And they say, well, how do you know? So I lost all my hair trying to figure this out. Right. Literally, like for years, I was trying to figure out how can I get around the hard work. With the hard work was you can't continue to pollute your garden. You can't continue to put paint cans and oil cans in the garden and expect your garden to thrive. And so that's why I really love that conversation with the docs up in Nashville, because it makes me think they're paying attention. They're in the trenches trying to figure this out. How are we going to help our peeps get to the place they want to be, and also let them know that there might be some hard decisions to make on a daily basis. Yeah, so you got to stop the bad guys from coming in. And then at that point, last show I think it is, we talked a little bit about having something in your body or in your diet every day that is helping you detox. These are where your cruciferous vegetables are fantastic. We talked about a supplement called GI Absorb, which is a binder that attaches bad guys and pulls them out. So it's almost as if you're doing a little bit of detox every day. So there's a lot of things we can do, but we can't skip that step. We can't skip the foundation for trying to build a house.
Got to get the bicycles out of the garden.
Got to get the bicycles and the paint cans out of the garden, no doubt.
Beautiful, Bart. All right, we have another question here. Ooh, it's a good one. Why? Oh, Bart, why is it harder to lose weight as we age?
Yeah, I love this question.
Love.
I get this one all the time. In fact, the way that I usually hear this one, it says, well, you know how it is when you get older, it's just harder and harder to get them off. No, that's not accurate. So well, again, I know that that's the common answer, but the way I want to kind of position this is such. So the reason that it's harder for us to lose weight as we age, it's not because aging makes us lose weight in a more difficult manner. What happens is that we become too toxic over time, and our detox pathways, they slow down. So like a simple, not an exact analogy, but I want you to think of this. Let's say you have a 20-year-old house and you got 20-year-old gutters on there. And those gutters have never really been cleaned out. And every year, every fall, a little bit more leaves fall in there and they get a little more congested. And the water's just not flowing through it. Now it's just overflowing. And they just keep building up and building up. And now there's a backflow. That's exactly what happens to our bodies. That if we don't really clean them out, the nice thing about the gutters, if you just go clean them all out, they work perfect and the things will go right through you. But basically, our fat cells in our body have a couple purposes. One, they can store excess energy because we could sometimes eat too much relative to our output. More often than not, though, they're acting as part of the immune system and they're protecting us from the toxins that we're putting in our body. So I will say this, if you're finding it harder and harder to lose weight, then I will tell you that ultimately here's the hard but truth. You have to be relentless when it comes to getting cleaner and cleaner in your life. And the good news is, as you do that, you will start to see evidence and you go, oh, these things that I was told or hypnotized that it was age was the cause of all these problems. You go, well, wait a minute. If that's the case, then this is a bum deal because I'm only getting older every day, right? So that's not a pretty outcome or outlook, I should say. But the reality is that we can get better with age. What if you just did better things with your age? And I know for one, like I know I can improve my game. So, these last couple of months, I've been able to change things up a little bit, did things a little bit different. And I saw my body get rid of some weight. I'm definitely cleaner than I've been, other than the French fries these last 2 weekends. Been cleaner than I've been in a long period of time. And it's just a reminder to me that there's always another level that we can get relentless about if it's important to you. So I don't know that losing weight as we age is age's fault, other than we accumulate so many toxins over time that we have now got to the kind of overload system, and the detox pathways start to slow down.
I think it's such a good reminder. And also thinking about like aging, there's an element of it that doesn't have to be a bummer at all. I don't know, maybe like none of it really has to be a bummer, because it's such an honor to get to like live longer and learn more stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to break down a paradigm that people are going to probably yell at me and say that, though, that's not true.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So a lot of times when women get into menopause, they say, well, you're going to gain all that weight. Well, from a hormonal perspective, they shouldn't. It should be the opposite. Your estrogen levels are going down. You're not in estrogen dominance anymore. Estrogen dominance, man, that provokes things like insulin resistance. That is an issue. That's a weight gaining moment. But now that your hormones in postmenopause essentially are balanced at a low level, you're not supposed to be making babies anymore. So you don't need all the high production of hormones that you once had. At that point, it's not a curse that you have to gain weight when you're in menopause. There'll be certain parts of your body. So we're clear here. There's certain parts of the female body that will store hormones for long-term use. And it's usually between the belly button and the upper thigh, and especially in menopause, but not excessive amounts. All the other weight gain, most likely, is because you're not being relentless about the lifestyle. And when you do get relentless about the lifestyle, being cleaner and cleaner, I think you'll get some amazing results.
I think that could be so empowering, Bart, so that like stepping into menopause, you can have a plan what you're going to do with that time.
Yeah, I think the perimenopause is when the plan really has to start. And that's, we've talked about it here. So if just a little side tab here is that all women in perimenopause should be supporting their adrenals first and foremost. Because in the event that your adrenals get tapped out, they start getting overstressed. And it's very stressful for the female body to go through perimenopause. There's more vulnerabilities, I should say. When we actually make the transition and the ovaries are not going to produce as much progesterone or estrogen, the responsibility then becomes that of the adrenal glands. If your adrenal glands are already stressed out or tired or fatigued because of lifestyle, because of diet, because of challenges going on in life, that turns, instead of menopause, turns into helipause. And as a result of those stressors, then yes, we see very frequently the body gain weight. And again, but that wasn't because of age. That was because of how we go into that phase of life. So if you're out there, you're perimenopause, what does that mean? Most likely, you're in your 40s. You could be in perimenopause, good 10 years or so. So maybe it's 42 to 52, 45 to 55, maybe a little bit longer. During that phase, there's this little extra vulnerability that we just want to be mindful of, and that your stress capacity is a little bit less. So supporting your adrenals becomes your number one target during that time.
Is there, Bart, one thing that you might direct us towards for adrenal support in that circumstance?
Yes, not only, so I'm not in perimenopause, but I do have that very tool right here. So it's this guy right here. It's an adrenal tonic, and this was not a setup. I've shown this here before. I don't know if you guys can see that. So I use it's an herbal concoction. It's beautiful because it's got 4 almost magical herbs: ashwagandha, echinacea, romagna, licorice root, and they become a tonic for our bodies. So we're not only supporting the adrenal glands, but it really helps us have the stamina to handle prolonged durations of stress. And folks, that's what we're under. We're on prolonged durations of stress. We're to the point where we're normalizing them. We just think that being under duress on a regular basis is just normal at this point.
We had a question just come in, Bart. Should you take adrenal tonic after menopause?
I would say this: if you still have stress in your life, the answer is yes. So I'll give you an example. So I'm not in perimenopause, right? I'm not going to be in menopause either. I take adrenal tonic every single day. I push my body. I push physically, emotionally, chemically, well, not chemically. Well, check. I'm exposed to chemicals regularly, right? So if you're out there and you like to push your body and you're expecting the most of it and you like to do as much as you possibly can and you have the stressors of family, maybe work or whatever it may be, the answer is absolutely. Because in the event that your adrenals get tired, nothing will get better after that. Your immune system has become dysfunctional. Weight loss is good luck with that one. That's when we start to lose energy, which means motivation, which means creativity. And all of that is because of the adrenal glands. Our blood pressure is regulated by adrenal glands. So there's a lot that these little glands, and they're tiny. They're sitting on top of your kidneys, but they play a big role in our overall capacity to just kind of deal with everyday functions.
Beautiful. Well, that does it tonight, guys, for our Q&A Health Made Simple show. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Yeah, so hopefully that's a taste for you guys. Just hopefully it's relatively simple, short and sweet. And of course, appreciate you guys joining us here. And as usual, we're going to continue to take deliberate action for our mind, our body, our overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.